A bizarre phenomenon continues to confound those who experience it. And then, we all love the paranormal. Ghosts, ghouls, goblins, zombies, the boogeyman, aliens, Bigfoot, all of that stuff. But what happens when the subject that we love so much actually crosses over and turns us mentally insane? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. Just a quick update from yesterday's episode. No, I have not gone to the dentist yet. Do I have the mouth of a super soldier? Even I am not for sure. I think I do. But I have no updates on that so far. This is your first episode. You're like, what? I don't understand that sentence at all. Do I have the mouth of a super soldier? So shouldn't everything else be super? The mouth is the least important thing involving combat. Well, listen to yesterday's episode. But anyways, today's episode, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Meme for Beans 317. Woohoo, yeah, he's coming back in from his own dental visit. Woohoo, he's showing off his big sparkly teeth. Meme for Beans was our pilot, our captain yesterday's episode, but he didn't get a chance to ride the Carpenter copter. And the reason why he was the driver yesterday and the driver today was because he made a donation during the Thanksgiving live stream special. It really means a lot when you guys can support the show financially, but it also means a lot if you can't. And what I mean by that, it's kind of weird phrasing, but if you guys can't support the show financially, I totally understand. I really, really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Also, I will be speaking live at the Oregon Ghost Conference. That is coming up in Seaside, Oregon, March 27th through the 29th. It's coming close. It's getting pretty close. I'm giving a presentation on haunted underwear, cursed clothing, all sorts of stories about people who have come across items that ended up being haunted that you can wear on your body, type of thing. Basically, maybe I'll talk about my mouth as well, probably. For most of the time, I'm like, what a great speech. It's because the government built my mouth. Let's go ahead and get started here. Meme for Beans, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the hair hang glider. Everyone grab onto Meme for Beans' ankles as he runs and jumps off the highest point of Dead Rabbit Command and glides us all the way out to a house in the suburbs. It's January 29th, 2026. Very, very recent story. There's a young mother sitting at home. We'll call her Amanda. She didn't give her real name. Amanda is at home with her kid. She's just sitting at home. When all of a sudden, she hears an odd noise outside of the house. Meow. She looks over at her kid. Her kid looks up at her. Amanda goes, "You heard that? You heard that noise?" Kid goes, "Sure did. Sure did hear that, Mommy." And you're like, okay, she heard a cat. Big deal. Well, she does have cats. This family has cats, and she thinks maybe one of my cats are outside. I'll get up to see. So she gets up, and she slowly opens the front door. Pokes her head out, kind of looks around. She doesn't see any of her cats. She doesn't see any cat at all. She knows it wasn't wise to open the door, but at the same time, she goes, I didn't feel scared at all. She didn't see any cats. She didn't see her cats. She shuts the door, and she sits there and she thinks, what was that? Now, you may be thinking, well, it was a cat. But this might be your first time listening to Dead Rabbit Radio. Longtime listeners of Dead Rabbit Radio know we have actually been tracking these stories over the years. Because what Amanda heard was not a cat going meow. That's not a story. That's what cats do. She heard what sounded like a man saying the word meow with no source or no point of origin for that sound. This is, I think, the fourth or maybe fifth time we've covered this topic over the years. And we still don't know exactly what it is. Now, looking back on it, they might all involve women. The ones off the top of my head definitely do. I can go back and look through the notes, look through the episodes. I mean, we've been covering this for 2 or 3 years. These stories pop up randomly. I was just looking for stuff to talk about on this show, and this woman posted this online. She just entitled it Disembodied Meow. That was the title of her post. And I just found it randomly. I was like, what in the world's going on? So I contacted her and I said, did it sound like a man imitating a cat? Because I've been covering this phenomenon on my show for a couple of years. And she goes, this was her response actually, because she said she talked to her husband about it. She said, quote, when I said, does it sound like a man saying the word meow? She said, quote, that's exactly how I explained it to my husband this morning. Like a human trying to imitate a cat. But then she adds this is interesting as well. She said, as a human trying to imitate a cat, she continues to say, quote, I wouldn't say it quite sounded human either, unquote. That's a variation to it. It's almost always described as a man saying the word meow. She goes, it did sound like a man saying the word meow, but there was something inhuman about it as well. We don't know what this is. This seems to be fairly recent. It's one of those paranormal stories that people don't know how to research it or talk about it. It's not a ghost. It's not an alien. It's not a Bigfoot. The very common ones, right? This happens to you. Where are you going to talk about it? I had an experience, I'll put this episode in the show notes, but I had experience seeing this weird white thing with these long legs and this weird back, skeletal spine. I didn't know what it was. I mentioned it kind of offhand on an episode years ago. I said I saw this weird thing. And you guys, you listeners said, oh, that's a crawler. And you suggested I go to a subreddit called Crawler Sightings, where I read all about what I think that I saw. I didn't know any of that stuff. So sometimes you'll have a dedicated group of people investigating a certain thing. You have the sliders. Those are the people who say they can shut off streetlights simply by their presence. There's something behind that phenomenon. I just think it's kind of dorky. Sorry, if you have that, you're standing under a streetlight right now, you hear that, you go, oh, and the light goes, oh. You're standing in the darkness. I'm not saying you're a dork. That's kind of a lame superpower. Talk about my mouth, right? That's a great superpower. I'll bite through a lamppost. But, we found 4 or 5 accounts of these over the years. So the last 747, a longtime contributor to the show, has sent over 1 or more of these. I stumbled across them randomly. I found this randomly the other day. Disembodied meow. I sent her over the articles, the posts from previous accounts. I haven't heard back from her yet. Or probably ever won't, right? It's not like she's going to be like, wow, meow. She's been taken over. But again, this is one of the things I love about doing this show. We're cataloging these things. This is a paranormal phenomenon that is happening, and I bet it happens way more than we've talked about. People don't know how to process it. They know it's not a cat because it doesn't sound like a cat, but who are they going to talk to about it? Where are they going to go to mention this? I'm sure I don't think it's super common. There's been 4 or 5 reports. It may have only happened, 50 times over the years. But that's what I love about the show is we've cataloged this now. This, along with the phenomenon known as the Black Bedrooms or Darkness Egyptian. That's another thing we've cataloged over the years. It's a paranormal phenomenon that's affecting people. I'll put those episodes in the show notes. We are building that paranormal catalog. You and me, right? We're researching this stuff. We're talking about it. And when other people experience it, you can also say, hey, listen, I know this podcast. This guy's talked about this before. Really interesting. Short, right? But just another piece of that puzzle. What's interesting is all of them have been, I think they've all been women. I see, because you can't build a pattern with just 2 or 3. Now that we have 4 or 5, we can start to look at these patterns. The one that's always stuck out to me was the one about the 15-year-old girl in her bedroom closet. She went into her closet to change. And as she is partially undressed, she hears this meow, this disembodied meow that sounds like a human saying it, a man. However, this time it was kind of saucy. It was kind of flirty. Meow! Like it was turned on by this half-naked teenager. So that does add an element of sinisterness to it. What's interesting is Amanda goes like, I wasn't scared. But she does say, looking back, I shouldn't have opened the front door, because it obviously wasn't something normal. Even if it was just a man in the bushes saying that you shouldn't open your front door. She said, I never felt scared during the phenomenon. Other than the girl, the 15-year-old girl, she ran out of her closet because she felt that there was a man watching her from like a vent or nearby or something like that. Every time this happens, each person thinks they're the only one who experienced it as well. So really interesting, short, but very interesting story. Another piece of that puzzle. Who knows if there's ever going to be a resolution to it? Or what the resolution could it possibly be? What actually is doing this? One thing that we lack a lot of these stories is geographic location. It would be fascinating to find out that all of these happened in Cincinnati. Right? We don't know. We don't know. They could have taken these stories, these 4 or 5 stories could have taken place. We know they've taken place over the years. Because we've done ones years ago, and now this one was just in January of 2026. We know that's happening, but they're not reporting their geographic location. What if they all were in one particular city? What if they were all in one particular neighborhood? That's a piece of research that we're lacking. And a lot of people who've posted about this, because I sent Amanda over the links, not the episodes, I don't do that. She's like, I don't want to listen to 45 minutes, the first half hour, he's talking about his mouth. I sent him over just the links from the articles. That's what I usually do, unless they specifically ask for the episode. 2 people have already pulled their posts down. Luckily, I have this stuff archived. The 2 people have already pulled down their meow posts. So very interesting what the phenomenon is, why it's happening, where it's happening. Is it across the nation? Is it across the world? Is it one city, one neighborhood? We don't know. That'd be a big piece of the puzzle. If they're all coming from the same city or a smaller geographical area, that'd be nuts, wouldn't it? If it was happening worldwide, I mean, that'd be crazy on its own way. But fascinating stuff. Keep an eye out for this, guys. If you guys come across the human meow story, send it my way. Keep looking into this. Meme for beans. I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the world-famous Carpenter Copter. We're leaving behind the meowing man. Why don't you fly us all the way out to the woods? We're headed out to the woods. We're about to meet a young girl. Let's call her Susan. One day, Susan's sitting at home. Their home is in the woods, or near the woods would probably be a better way to put it. I don't think they're full hillbillies, but maybe. Susan is sitting in her house when all of a sudden her mom walks in one day and goes, "Guess what I got?" And Susan and her siblings are like, "What, Mommy, what?" And Mom shows them a little puppy. "Look at what I got." They were free. This was a free puppy. I was walking through the woods. These guys, to be fair, these guys do sound like hillbillies. The mom said she was walking through the woods, and you know where the Amish guy lives? The Amish guy, his farm, and the kids are like, "Yeah, we know where he lives." Well, I was walking around his farm, and they're like, "Do you work there?" Nope, she's just walking around his farm. And she found a box of free puppies. And this was the skinniest one. This one made me go, "Oh, this is the runt of the litter. I better take this guy home." So I scooped him out of the box and left. Even when Susan posted this, it seems she was a little skeptical of that origin story for this dog, who we will call Daisy. Actually, that is the real name of the dog. That seems odd, right? You're walking on someone else's property, there's a box of dogs, and then you take one. She didn't ask, right? She didn't ask the Amish guy. Maybe he wasn't there. Maybe there was just a big box that said free puppies. Now, what's interesting is we don't even know if that's accurate. The mom shows back up at home with a puppy, but even her story doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know where these people live. Maybe that's normal. Maybe hillbilly Amish relations are, you can walk on my property, I can walk on yours, and if you happen to see a box of free animals, you can take one. Because she didn't ask the Amish guy. She just scooped one up out of the box and left. The box may have not even said free on it. It may have just been a box of puppies, and the mom's like, no, give me that puppy back. As the human mother is running away with it. It sounds suspect. But strap in, right? Because if you have questions about the origin of the puppy, it's only going to get weirder. Susan says, Mom brought home this runt puppy. We named her Daisy. And she goes, as a side note, even before the saga of Daisy, which we're going to dig into, Susan goes, my house is haunted. Low-level haunting stuff, cabinets opening and closing on their own. That's pretty standard. One thing that she's noted, which is not normal for hauntings, is very often they will find gifts in their house. Not like cool gifts, not like Hot Wheels or Transformers or something like that. They'll just walk into their house or walk in the living room one day, and there'll be a colorful rock sitting in the middle of the living room. And Susan goes, these are rocks that aren't normal for this area that we live in. You wouldn't find these rocks if you were just walking through the woods nearby. Sometimes there'll be leaves, just like a couple leaves in the middle of the room. Sometimes there'll be feathers. They'll find feathers randomly around the house. And the family kind of equates this as to this is a ghost or some sort of presence in the area or even in their home that's leaving these things behind for them. They'll hear odd knocking noises from time to time. Sometimes they're a little more menacing or forceful than others. One thing that was of note, the gifts themselves, that's really weird. That's something we usually attribute more to a Bigfoot, leaving gifts behind on patios and stuff like that. But she said my grandma had a music box. And this music box doesn't work anymore. My grandmother's passed away. We still have her music box. The music box does not work at all, except for one day a year, on my mom's birthday. The music box will turn on by itself, play a little melody. But only on my mom's birthday. So, definitely you can chalk that up to a ghost. Definitely falls into the realm of a spirit. But let's talk about Daisy. That stuff was happening before Daisy showed up. Let's talk about Daisy. Susan said that Daisy pretty much picked me to be its owner. Sure, the whole family is part of it, but Daisy approached me. Like, we're the blood bond. We're the best friends. We're the pals. We had that, me and my brother, we had a hamster. It's actually his hamster, but the hamster liked me better. The hamster would break out of his cage, and one night the hamster crawled into bed with me. This isn't a setup for a joke, a Richard Gere joke. That poor guy. That joke has haunted him for years, and it's not true. The hamster broke out of his cage and squeezed under my bedroom door and got into bed with me. And then 3 hours later in the emergency room, no, I'm just joking. And it terrified me, obviously. I could see a little thing moving at the foot of my bed. It was horrifying. It was under the sheets. I didn't have sex with a hamster, just so we're clear on that. But anyways, the hamster liked me better than it liked my brother. So it did become my hamster. And I named him Stitchface from that Simpsons joke. So anyway, and it lasted a long time. That hamster lived to be like 11, which apparently is a Yoda in hamster years. But anyways, I understand sometimes a pet will be a family pet, but it will bond with a particular member. And Susan said it bonded with me. So one night, there's this knocking noise. This is something that happens in the home. It can be very terrifying or just oddly annoying. On this particular night, it was on the terrifying part. there was a loud, rapid knocking coming from somewhere in the house. It was somewhere in this hallway area where Susan finds herself at. And the knocking itself was terrifying, but that was the first time Susan began to notice something about Daisy. She said, I heard the knocking coming from a room. I couldn't really place exactly where it was coming from. I look down the hallway and I see Daisy standing there at the end of the hallway, staring at me. But now, this dog that I had raised since she was a puppy, now it's looking at me with human eyes. And this is a phrase, a descriptor she's going to use a lot going forward. Daisy had quote-unquote human eyes now. Not all the time. But sometimes you would look at Daisy and her eyes were that of a man's or a woman's, but humans. Susan's looking at Daisy and Daisy's staring back at her with these undog-like eyes, human eyes. And that's when Daisy opens her mouth just a little bit. In a way that Susan thought, she truly thought in this moment that Daisy was about to say something. She said the way that my dog opened her mouth, it was like how sometimes you'll see a person about to say something and then they won't, but their mouth will still be in that position. They second guess what they're about to say. She goes, it was the same thing, but it was with the dog. A dog with human eyes looked like it was about to speak English, but it stopped itself before it did. And instead, it just let out a long, gravelly sigh. Ugh. It's like Tim the Toolman Taylor. Ugh. So she realized this. Weird, right? You had this phantom knocking going on, and now her dog is not acting normal. And this starts becoming a regular theme in this household. From time to time, Susan will look at Daisy, and Daisy will have human eyes. She has the eyes of a human. She says, quote, they're human and dull, lifeless, unquote. How is she describing what her dog looks like, the dog she raised from a puppy? And she goes, this dog is dumb as a brick. Like, this dog is stupid. She says, Daisy has always been a really idiotic animal. But now, she started to notice that sometimes Daisy is not only very clever, but almost too clever for an animal. Any animal. What was her name again? Susan. I've been calling her Sally back and forth. Sorry, I wrote down two different names. But anyways, Susan, well, keep calling her Susan. Susan said one day she couldn't find her cell phone. Oh, man, where's my cell phone? Daisy, have you seen it? Because I need that cell phone. I need to make a phone call. And Susan does this. We all do it, right? We talk to the animals that we have. Hey, Stitch Face, this pizza's delicious, isn't it? And he's like eating like dried peas or something like that. And I'm eating the pizza over his cage. You'll never enjoy this. Pouring hot grease on his peas. There you go. Now you can know what a pepperoni tastes like. We do that all the time. We talk to animals. Hey, look out. I'm about to step on you. You probably shouldn't be saying that, but I've said that around Jenny the cat. Whoa, watch out, I almost stepped on you. You know what I mean? And then the cat will scurry out of the way. Or not, right where you step on him, and you both learn a lesson as you trip and fall, and they need major surgery to their spine. Both have learned a valuable lesson. We talk to our animals just kind of look at us. She said one day I was walking around my house and I go, where's my cell phone? Daisy, have you seen my cell phone? I can't find it anywhere. Daisy then walks right over to the couch and starts pawing at a particular cushion. Then, right, like motioning, oh, it's over here, but, the dog's just kind of doing that. And Daisy goes, and Susan goes, my dog's stupid. So, I probably will check the couch at some point, but maybe Daisy's just being a dummy. But then Daisy, after pawing on the couch cushion, kind of sticks her head underneath the couch. So she basically crawls a good way underneath the couch. When she emerges from the couch, she looks up at Susan with a weird smile on her face. So Daisy is now smiling a weird smile at Susan. Susan's like, what? Then Susan checks that part of the couch and finds her cell phone. And she goes, this doesn't make any sense. My dog's an idiot. It doesn't understand English. Definitely probably doesn't know what a cell phone is. Didn't understand when I was saying, where's my cell phone? But the dog knew exactly where it was at. Now, here's the thing. If it was a German Shepherd, if it was a dog of high intelligence, then you're used to that. The dog better find your cell phone. If I pay $100,000 for a dog, which is how much like a trained German Shepherd costs, it's insane. Who would pay that much for a dog? I knew a guy who was trying to buy a dog of that much. He was looking for it. He's like, $120,000 was his price range. You better be able to use my cell phone. It better be able to send emails for me if I'm paying that much money for a dog. But it's not. It's a runt of a Amish. It's probably stolen from an Amish man. It's the runt of the litter. It's dumb, but now, ever since it has these human eyes, again, from time to time, not all the time, it can understand English, possibly speak it, but caught itself before it did. It can smile, and it knows knows not only what a cell phone is, but where Susan lost it. Susan writes on her account, quote, that's just a few things. I could talk about how whenever she leaves a room and comes back, she always acts or looks slightly different. I could talk about that one time I swear that I saw another one of her in the woods when I was outside at night, even though she was right by me. I could even say I don't think this is a dog at all. Unquote. This has been deleted. All of this stuff has been deleted. She deleted her post. I have it archived. She deleted her post. Generally, because I'm reading this stuff, and I know a lot of this stuff either gets deleted by mods because it doesn't fit their very narrow worldview of what the paranormal is. There's all these different subreddits, and there's a lot of different power-hungry dorks on there. And then sometimes it's the people themselves. Either they get inundated with questions or they get mocked. That happens a lot on the paranormal parts of the web. Someone will post an experience, and other people will say, check your carbon monoxide detector. Also check your IQ because you're an idiot. You're as dumb as your dog type of thing. I don't know why they spend so much time on paranormal subreddits. I do know why, right? Because people like to make other people feel miserable. I'm a troll too. I'm not, we talked about that when I was trolling that director, and then I went and saw his movie and it was really good. Shelby Oaks. But it was a good movie. My point is that I understand a little bit of trolling here and there. Sometimes it gets out of control. Or out of control. Jason, it's the same word. You just pronounced it slightly differently. Enunciated a different syllable. Anyways, I see people delete stuff all the time. I see mods delete stuff all the time. That's why I archive things that are fascinating to me. I am not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional at all. And I'm not saying this to troll this person, because I don't know if I'm right. But I wonder if there is a mental health component to this story. There may not be. And what's funny, maybe funny might not be the right word, but let me back up here for a second. What we could be talking about here is, yes, a mimic or some sort of force that predated the dog, that did exist in this home before Daisy became a part of it, has in some way either possessed or influenced or replaced Daisy the dog. In the world of the paranormal, those are all possible options. When this was posted online, it was posted under the title, I think my dog is haunted, or maybe she's just odd. There's something wrong, though. And here's the thing, this is what I find fascinating and concerning about this story, is it's a possibly paranormal story. It could also be a mental health issue. And what she is seeing is her normal dog, but she might be having some sort of hallucinations, something going on, not paranormal, and she's hallucinating these features on her dog. It's a normal dog, but she's seeing the human eyes. She's seeing the smile. She's seeing the height differences. Every time my dog leaves the room, not every time, but a lot of times when my dog leaves the room and comes back, it's not the same dog. Those are actually hallmarks of a mental illness, too. You do have that, it's not Cotard's delusion, but we've covered it on our show. There is that particular delusion where you believe that your family members or loved ones have been replaced with robots or automatons. Robots is a modern interpretation of it. Actually, nowadays they probably go, no, that's not my husband, he's been cloned. But it's an old mental illness. It's been around for a long time. But basically, the person that you knew as your husband, as your child, as your pet, not a person as a pet, but as your dog as your pet, you have a delusion, and it's not like on purpose. It's a mental illness. You think that, no, they've been replaced. This is a doppelganger. This is a changeling, fae folk, clone, robot, hologram, whatever you have. It's a very rare delusion, but it does happen. We've done episodes on it before. It's quite fascinating. They think it has something to do with facial awareness. You're actually looking at someone and your brain's picking up that they have a different face than they used to. They look the same, but there's enough differences, and your brain is getting all of this stuff miswired, and you think it's not your husband anymore. It's a very tragic mental illness, because the people who generally should be there with you during your mental health struggle, your mental health journey, you don't think they're real. You're waiting for your real husband, your real kid, your real pet to show back up and save you. It's quite heartbreaking. The fact that sometimes the dog has the human eyes and sometimes it doesn't does make me think that it's a mental health thing. And maybe it's just a gut instinct. Make me think it's a mental health thing. The story does seem to be, and again, the world of paranormal is weird. Don't get me wrong. We cover the weirdest of the weird, the strangest of the strange on this show. This particular story does have some things that seem to be out of place. The gifts arriving in the living room, that is something we don't normally see with ghosts. Jinn will sometimes leave money. Ghosts, your grandmother may take a toy that she always played with, you both loved it so much, it's been in the attic for years, and then one day you find it sitting out on the living room floor, and you never know how it got down there. That's ghost stuff. We can see that stuff sometimes with ghosts. Quite a powerful ghost, but a ghost nonetheless. Random stuff from the forest or the woods nearby ending up in the house, that would make me think that someone, possibly Susan, is gathering it herself and not remembering it. I mean, like all of the things, you can do this with some paranormal stories. Think about the previous one with the cat meowing. There were two witnesses there, the mom and the kid. Now, one person can influence another observer, sure, I understand that. But in that story alone, you had two people, two witnesses of the event. And not only that, that was the fourth or fifth, I know I keep saying that because I don't remember exactly, time we've covered a story like that. So we have it spread out over time. Although one of them, you could clearly say this is a mental illness. The first time you go, oh, someone just hallucinated, they heard something that wasn't there. This story, when I was reading it, I just had an instinct, this might not be real. Now here's the thing. Whether it's a mental health issue or a paranormal issue, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's headed towards a happy ending. It's one thing to think that your pet is haunted or possessed. Whether you think it and it's actually true or it's not, we can work on that. If it's actually possessed, we can work on getting the spirit out. If it's not true, if it's a series of hallucinations and delusions you're having, we can work on that as well, with medical professionals and therapy and things like that. Good support system, family support system, holding all that stuff together as well. When you say at the end of your narrative, quote, I could even say that I don't think this is a dog at all, unquote, you're basically saying that this isn't my dog, this isn't Daisy, this isn't the puppy I raised, this is a biological entity that has completely replaced my dog. What are your options then? If it's not even your dog, and at some point your dog was replaced by this entity that seems to be haunting her at this point. You're staring at her with these human eyes, the weird smile, just kind of being a weirdo, and she's not even telling us everything, right? Your options are much more limited. It's not that your dog that you love so much is possessed. It's that the dog you love so much is gone. Who knows where it's at? Who knows how long it's been gone for? This is an entity disguised as your dog, So to kill it, you wouldn't be killing a dog. You wouldn't be killing your dog. You wouldn't even be killing a dog. You'd be killing an entity disguised as a dog. If it's a paranormal threat imitating a loved one, how do you deal with that? It's not like you can cast a ghost out. The thing itself is the entity. You kill the entity. I'm not saying this is what you should do, but I'm saying this would be what other option would you have? It's a crazy story. And to be honest, we'll wrap it up like this. I don't always want to keep interjecting myself into the story. You go, Jason, yesterday you did a 20-minute episode, quote-unquote, episode about your mouth. I know I'm still wrapping my head around that as well. I do believe that it's true. I don't think the government built my mouth, but I do have weird mouth-related healing. But here's the thing. I often wonder about my own mental health vis-a-vis belief in the paranormal. And what I mean by that, I don't think you have to be crazy to believe in ghosts and goblins. The majority of the world's population today and throughout history has believed in the paranormal. It's really only been in the past 150 years of human development where it's become in vogue to not believe in anything that you cannot see. That's very recent in human history. Even today, there are billions of people who still believe in the paranormal, and I'm including religion in that. There's a very small minority that doesn't believe in it at all. And that group gets smaller and smaller percentage-wise when you factor in the entire human experience. It's the entire human race. It's very new for us not to believe in any of this stuff. I'm not saying that you have to be crazy to believe in the paranormal. I think that's normal for people to believe in things that are real. I believe a lot of paranormal things are real. But so this is what my concern is with my mental health. I'll try to keep it short. Let's say that I'm sitting at home and I'm just having fun playing Battlefield 6, cooking some macaroni and cheese, and when my microwave dings, when I get up to go get my macaroni and cheese, I notice that there's a portal in my kitchen. Like, it's what you would think of as a portal, a big swirling mass of colors, and I'm like, well, so here's the thing. Do I believe that portals to other dimensions, to other realities, through time, all of that stuff are real? Yeah, I do believe that is actually a possibility. However, if I was just hanging out in my house and a portal opened up, I would think I've lost my mind. I would think I've lost my mind, and that is not a portal. I'm actually hallucinating. And I would try to reach around it to get my macaroni and cheese, but then eventually be like, I probably should call the doctor so I can get some food at the hospital. They have hospital food there. I should go to the ER and say, hey, doc, I'm hallucinating. I think there's a portal in my living room. And you go, well, Jason, you're a paranormal researcher, and you said that you do believe in portals and stuff like that. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like I have that fear that I would go insane and my delusion would match my beliefs. And I've thought about this. I've thought about this for a long time. If a portal... That's actually an easy one. If a portal opened up, I could choose whether or not to go in it. You go, Jason, why don't you just go in it? I mean, if it's a hallucination, you'll just pass through nothing, and then you'll be able to eat some delicious macaroni and cheese. But I don't think it's that simple. I think if a portal opened up and it was due to mental illness, when I walked through that portal, I think the mental illness would get worse because I'm, like, playing along with it. You go, Jason, that's not how mental illness works. It's serious disease. The doctor doesn't go, oh, if you hadn't indulged in that fantasy, you wouldn't be here today. You'd be fine. The better example would be this, because I've thought about this more often than the portal example. I'm sitting at home playing BF6, because it's all I do. If I'm not doing the show, I'm doing that. And I see movement out of the corner of my eye, and I turn and I look, and a little gnome is crawling across my floor. He's like, did you ever vacuum? His knees hurt. He's like, I think I crawled on several rocks. Why are there rocks on your floor? He's dusting off his knees. And this gnome goes, oh, well, listen, Jason, you gotta clean your house. But before you do that, there's a quest we need you to go on. See, I'm Falcor, the gnome. And I've been sent by the 7 noble gnome kingdoms. I'm all boring. I'm all put my headphones back on. I'm all playing BF6. He's having to jump up and down on my keyboard. He's like, no, listen to me. He's making me log out. A gnome shows up, or whatever mystical creature. I've thought about this before. A gnome shows up and says, hey, you have to go on this adventure with us. Only you can save the gnome princess and win her hand in marriage. I was like, oh, is she normal human size or is she gnome size? Because I'm not into the gnome. No offense, little guy. But if she's a gnome, but she's human, he's like, that's not a gnome. Of course she's the size of a gnome. We didn't say rescue the human princess. And then, imagine, because see, here's the thing. I've thought about that. If all of a sudden a gnome jumped up on my keyboard and gave me a quest, I would think I've lost my mind. I don't think I would indulge it for 1 second. I have this weird default where I assume that, obviously I've seen ghosts and things like that. And even when I first started seeing ghosts, when I was seeing ghosts and shadow men and shadow dogs and all this stuff, I'll put that episode in the show notes, I thought I was losing my mind. Even though I believed in all that stuff, I go, I'm hallucinating. This stuff isn't real. It wasn't until other people around me started seeing them too when I realized that, no, this was a real phenomenon. Even though I believed in ghosts, once I started seeing all this stuff, I go, I'm clearly losing my mind. If a gnome showed up and says, you got to go on this quest, it's going to take place in the real world. We're going to need you to find 7 keys that have been hidden around the city. You can't tell anyone about it. Because they'll try to get the keys first, and then they will marry the gnome princess. And I was like, oh, that's fine. I don't want to marry a gnome anyways. He goes, no, you don't understand. The gnome princess, you just got to do the quest by yourself. He's like, I can't really think of a made-up scenario off the top of my head. He's like, just listen to me. I would worry. Here's the thing. I would think, no, listen, gnome. I think I'm gone mad. You obviously don't exist, and this quest doesn't exist. I'm going to go to the hospital and tell the doctor I'm seeing things. I have this default in me. It's a protection thing. Because I fear the opposite, that if the gnome does show up... Here's the thing, if the gnome shows up to send me on a magical journey and I say, I think I'm losing my mind, sure, I don't get to go on a magical journey. Sure, all of reality in the gnome world may cease to exist. But if I'm correct in my assumption that I've lost my mind, that I'm saving myself and my loved ones a lot of trouble, because all of a sudden I'm running around the city dressed as a gnome, and the gnome's like, you don't have to dress like us. You're supposed to look normal. I have a big giant gnome hat on. I'm standing perfectly still in people's lawns. He goes, no, we could have done that, you idiot. We need you to be able to infiltrate these places to get these keys. You know, what happens is when I'm running around town and my friends and my family are like, hey, Jason, why are you running around town? We've never seen you run at all. And now not only are you running, you're dressed like a gnome. And I go, I can't tell you, but I can't tell you. I can't tell you. Just mark your calendars. March 16th, the wedding of the century. Me and the gnome princess. I've said too much. You know what I mean? Like mental illness. It kind of is taxing on everybody involved. And, I'm running around trying to collect these keys and stuff like that. But in reality, there's no gnome, there's no mission, there's no wedding. I've just gone crazy. And it manifested in a way that is something I believe in already. And I do worry about that. I've actually set up these circuit breakers in my own mind that if a mystical creature ever came to me, or if I started hearing voices in my head telling me to do things or to go complete some sort of quest or whatever, my default is that I've lost my mind. It would really, really, really have to go out of its way to prove that it's real. And what it would have to do is other people would have to interact with it as well. I bring the gnome to work. And they're like, hey, do you have the Johnson report? And I was like, well, I'm working on that, boss, sir. But first, I put a little gnome man on the table. I go, meet Falcor. He's a gnome warrior. or something like that. I wasn't really paying attention in the beginning. It has something to do with keys or whatever. I'm not for sure. But look at him. And my boss goes, oh my God, that is a real gnome. And he's walking around. The gnome's doing this little dance. And then I go, oh, okay, then I guess I will go on this quest with you, valiant gnome, now that I've outed that your species is real. And you will be hunted for sport by the elite of the world. My boss is loading up his shotgun. That would be the only way that I would even indulge it. Someone else would have to experience it with me. It's like a guardrail from going insane. I worry about that. I honestly do worry about that. And that's why I think stories like this, I mean, it's a fascinating story, right? Either it's a real paranormal event, a paranormal threat. The dog is definitely not neutral. It's doing creepy things. A neutral force. I mean, an alien can be creepy just maybe because it's awkward. But, dogs don't smile, nor do they almost talk. Nor do they have human-like eyes. It changing shape or changing size and all of these things. It's menacing in a very subtle way. If it's a paranormal story, there's a paranormal threat in that home. And Susan has to deal with that. And hopefully, not a horrible way. Have a spiritual advisor come over, a priest and a mom, a rabbi, whatever religion. Or if she's no religion, one of them will still show up. Just go to a local church or synagogue or whatever and let them know what's going on. Now, again, they may say, well, I'll go to your house, but hey, I left some of my stuff in the local hospital. Will you go there with me? Yeah, sure. But no, spiritual leaders out there, regardless of the religion, even if you're not a member of it, are almost always willing to help you. And that would be the answer to a spiritual problem. But if it's a mental health problem, then it's creepy in a different way, right? The threat is not Daisy, the dog. The threat is Susan. And again, I'm not 100% saying Susan is this. I'm just kind of using this story as kind of a launching point. The story does read like that to me, but I don't know. I have no proof either way. But I wanted to tell the story because it is something that I personally struggle with. If I was going through it, that's why I'm not blaming her. I'm not going, cuckoo, lock her up. I'm saying that, if I started thinking that my dog was possessed or replaced or something like that, it'd be very troubling. And I hope, and it's hard, right? Because I don't suffer from mental illness. And I know you go, Jason, you can put up all these guardrails, but it's an illness. I mean, you can try to prevent getting the flu, but you may get it anyways, and I understand that. And if you got a cough, you got a cough. And if you start having delusions for whatever reason, they're delusions, and you may not be able to put reasonable thought into them and stop them. But I hope that I would be able to, but who knows, right? That's scary to me. That's actually very, very frightening to me. This isn't really a story about Susan and Daisy. I think it's a story about me. And maybe you as well. I don't know. I don't know. But I think that, having a love of the paranormal, it's one of the very few hobbies, it might be the only science that borders very, very closely to mental illness. It's really hard to see where that boundary is. Because someone could be mentally ill and experience all of the same paranormal events we talk about on this show regularly, right? You could be totally sane and have a legitimate sighting. You could be insane, and both of them would sound the same to us. There's voices in my head. It was telling me to go to the doctor. A voice in my head told me that I needed to go to the doctor, so I went to the doctor. It turns out I had a tumor. The doctor cut the tumor out, and the voices went away. That was a real story we covered. That's been covered in the news. I'll put the episode in the show notes. But you could easily have a mental illness that shows up the same way. You're hearing voices, and it's telling you there's something wrong with you. But it might have a different answer on how to fix it. A very interesting story. It's one that's kind of close to my heart, honestly. I don't think Susan's mentally ill. I have no proof either way, but when I read this story, I thought, it's kind of what it sounds like, and it's one of the stories that truly terrifies me because it's a story that I fear I am also susceptible to. my love of the paranormal, I hope it's not the springboard into a descent of madness. But I understand both of those journeys often walk down the same path. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a great one.